What do you think is like driving Michigan State's success?
So at the core, I think what's driving their success is actually something that's been there for a long time, and that's good goaltending and good defense. Um, for year under Dan Cole, even in years where they weren't great or they didn't live up to expectations, they had good defense. You weren't going to score a lot of points typically against them. And if the defense had lapses, you'd have a goalie right in the net to make those saves. And this year, it's Drew DeRidder and Pierce Charleston. Both have been excellent. Um, but I think that's why the team is decent. I think why they're improving is because of the offense. The offense has struggled past couple of years, whether it be just competing with a lot of the high flying offenses in the Big Ten, like a Michigan, like a Notre Dame at times. It can be hard to keep up with, and they've had trouble with that. But this year, they're really starting to find their groove and actually putting up some goals. I think I've really been impressed too by how the defensemen have been kind of contributing. Um, Dennis Sasana, I think, is fourth in points scored this year. He's been excellent on the back end. I really like what he brings, and he's not just a playmaker. He's not just a puck mover. He doesn't just collect assists. I think he has 4 goals or 5 goals on the season, so he can activate successfully from the blue line. The Krieger brothers are like that too. If they're not taking an untimely penalty, they're typically
I
nabbing a
know.
goal or an assist.
I know. Yeah, the penalties are killer sometimes. Yeah,
It seems
it's
like clockwork.
well, and exactly, and I think like someone had mentioned, I can't remember if it was probably the NBCSN broadcast of that Notre Dame series, and I love that, by the way, because you never get good college hockey on any televised, like in God forbid Big Ten network put up a good program. But like big plus, I just can't deal with it. But yeah, like yeah, that whole the stats on NBCSN were just key. But yeah, they said like I think against Penn State the week before they play Notre Dame, I think what that was. They had like half their points were against or I mean from defensemen, which is crazy, right? Like just half your points are coming from the
Yeah.
defense, which is I mean that's awesome. I've been impressed with Sasana. I've been impressed with Lewandowski, who before going what is it before he didn't get a point in the first game against Notre Dame. And then scored the OT winner against Notre Dame. That was awesome. But he ended what was like an 11-game winning streak, and then DeRidder, Charleston, whenever he's been there, has been outside of that Michigan game. That's is what it is. But when he gave up the 7 goals, but other than that, like I mean, the goaltending has been great. Who would you say would be like the first half MVP?
So there are a couple. My mind is split between a couple. Um, I've got to go with DeRidder though. The other guy I was thinking of, Mitchell Lewandowski. You mentioned him already. He scored that OT winner. He's been so important for this offense this year. Leads the team in points despite missing 4 or 5 games. But it's got to be the goaltender. It's got to be Drew. There are nights where he just stands on his head. He goes out there and just has some excellent starts where he's the only reason the team wins, and that's just the definition of an MVP. He has the fourth highest save percentage in the NCAA right now at 9.45, and he has a sub 2 goals against average. He's just insane this year. He had a great year last year, and it looks like he's somehow being better. Like I can't give it to anyone but him. He's been rock solid in that crease.
And that's awesome. And it kind of leads very well into kind of my next point too, with with Danton Cole and this like tandem operation, that he sort of had between DeRidder and Charleston. And Charleston's been great. Well, outside of that Michigan game where he gave up the 7 goals, but outside of that, Charleston has kind of been I think it's like except outside of like four or so weekends, they've kind of split like the duties. And I mean, again, like after Charleston's performance against Penn State, you couldn't not play him in that Notre Dame game, and he didn't play like horribly, but again, like once you got to ride the hot hand sometimes, and that's just kind of the way it goes. But do you think that like Cole should continue to like do this sort of tandem thing with the goaltending, or do you just stick with DeRidder like 9 times out of 10?
So I liked the phrase you went with there. You stay with the hot hand, and I think that's the tandem system I would run with here. Drew is excellent in net, and he's just been fantastic. But at the end of the day, he's still a college student. He's still kind of a prospect. And there are games where, or there are weekends or days where he just needs some rest or even a mental break. Um, and if you get Charleston enough starts like they have been, he can provide you games like he did against Penn State. I mean, that Penn State game was incredible. Didn't he make like 50 saves?
Yeah, it was 50, which is
Just
the most in
something
Division One.
just crazy. Yeah, he's been when you have a goaltender who can come out and prove that he can do stuff like that. Like he hasn't been consistently as good as DeRidder, but he has games and flashes where he looks just as good. So when you have a tandem like that, I don't necessarily think it's 1A, 1B. I think you should give DeRidder a majority of the starts. But man, if Charleston comes out and says, I want a few starts because of how good I'm playing, I'd give it to him. I wouldn't say no.
What is your boldest prediction going into the second half of the season?
Bold prediction, they finish in the top 3 in the Big Ten. I
Oh
think
my
that's
goodness.
that's pretty bold, I'd say.
Yeah, well, that is considering you got to pass. Well, I guess they're what, 5 now, I think is what it is.
Yep.
If they finish in 3, they would pass like Ohio State, is it? No, 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 no. That would be Notre Dame.
Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think Ohio, because they're above Wisconsin and Penn State right now.
Right. Penn
So
State.
they would have to pass Ohio State and Notre Dame,
Right.
and they've split the series, and both of them are on the road. I think
Right.
that's my main reason for this bold take. They've been on the road a lot. When they get back from this break, get a little healthy, they're going to get a lot of games at home, and they might be able to steal a few series.
Perfect. And their record at home is not bad. So that is all the Michigan State stuff I wanted to talk about today, because I again just needed to get some of this out of my system. I have been really impressed with what they've been doing, and it's been exciting. But we're gonna take a quick break, and finally Griff is going to join us, and we will do that in just a moment.